Strange whistling at night? I was just beginning to fall asleep when I heard this distinct whistle in the hallway behind my wall. It sounded like the kind of whistles you get when you blow or suck into a straw, that high, multi-pitched sound. Well, I didn't think much of it at first, but then it happened again about 5 minutes later. Now I'm laying awake in my bed and it did it again, but each time it happened, it was slightly different than before. So I'm kind of freaked out at this point, but I decide to go get a drink of cold tea and smoke a cigarette. I come back and get comfortable, then it happens again. But this time, instead of sounding like it was coming from the hallway, it was right in my room, in front of my bed, versus behind it on the other side of the wall. I woke up my girlfriend up just in case, 'cause I got kinda spooked out. I couldn't shake this eerie feeling off. She was half asleep, but she said she heard it too, in her dreams. Now, we're just laying in bed like, what the fuck? I don't even know how to logically explain something like this. I'm officially creeped out. Working in a haunted restaurant, bread baker third shift. I figured I'd share with you some strange and what I believe to be paranormal experiences happening at my place of employment. I work at an old restaurant in a city in Oregon. I will not say which restaurant or which city for obvious reasons. The restaurant has been around for about 30 years. You can actually already imagine how old the building already is. I work as the bread baker during the night hours. My shift is usually from 8:30 p.m. till 3 a.m., depending on which products need to be made. My coworkers tend to leave at 10 o'clock. Sometimes the dishwasher is there a bit later, though I got lucky moving here and landing this job right away at $13 an hour. Now I don't feel so lucky. My first experience was the second month of working there. I just put some hamburger buns in the proofer and had some time to kill. So I walked into the dining area to make myself some espresso. Halfway there, I noticed a faint whistling coming from the dining area. I shrugged it off, as it stopped once I entered. As soon as the espresso was done, the whistling started again, but louder this time. I couldn't make out if it was a song or not, but it went on for about a minute then stopped. My whole body shivered, as I was definitely creeped out. The next day, I mentioned this to the dishwasher, and she looked at me for a minute and then sighed. She told me that the building is most definitely haunted, and she constantly hears the whistling as well, but only when she's by herself. The conversation ended there, as she doesn't speak English very well. Now, fast forward a few weeks later. This experience freaked me out pretty bad for a few days. I still get chills thinking about it. You may not think it's creepy, but it was. Now, we have a huge walk-in cooler filled with tons of prepped food and so on. This was about 11 p.m., and the dishwasher was still there. I walked into the cooler to grab some butter. The door is huge and heavy, so there is no way wind or anything like that could shut the door, especially because there was no wind to shut it at all. As I was reaching for the butter, I heard the door slam behind me. At that moment, I was obviously startled and thought maybe the dishwasher closed it, thinking I left it open by accident, right? I walked to the door and started yelling for her, hoping that she would hear me. After about 3 minutes or so of no response at all, I panicked. It was super cold in there. I kept banging and banging on the door and yelling, and about 10 minutes later, she finally heard me and opened it, looking confused. Shivering, I asked her if she closed the door on me, and she said no. I told her the door closed on me, and the look on her face freaked me out. I texted my boss and told him what happened, and asked him to check the security cameras. When he answered, he told me he watched, and said that he saw me walk in, and about 10 seconds later, the door slammed shut. No one was behind it. It was shut by itself. That's never happened to anyone else. We were both confused, and I was wary. A few weeks after, in the dining room, they mop the floors every night and put the chairs on top of the tables. I noticed they were in their usual spot on the tables. Didn't think much of it. As I was making bread dough, about 12 a.m., something happened that I cannot explain. In a span of almost 5 to 10 seconds, I heard the loudest crash coming from the dining area that shook the whole building. And the lights went out quickly. They then came back on. My heart was beating so fast and I felt nauseous. I had no idea what had just happened. I ran into the dining room and my heart sank from fear. All the fucking chairs were on the floor scattered, and a few definitely broken. Then the whistling began. I immediately called my boss, and he rushed over. We went to the office and watched the security camera. The video showed the chairs on top of the tables. The lights go out, come back on, and the chairs were scattered all over the floor. The look on his face filled my body with dread. He promised to stay with me for the rest of the night, and I told him I was becoming scared of working by myself in that goddamn place. He said I would be fine. This happened a few days ago, and it took everything in me to not quit this job. This was probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced. It was about 2:30 a.m. The baguettes were in the oven, and it was almost time for me to leave. I had to use the restroom, so I walked into the dining room to get to the restroom. I heard the whistling, but very faint. It was becoming normal, and since nothing had happened for a while, I wasn't creeped out. Got into the restroom, it's a one-person, locked the door and sat down to do my business. About 30 seconds in, I hear a faint whisper come from outside the door. I chalked it up to just hearing things. Then, I heard someone knock very lightly. My heart stopped. I was alone. Or so I thought. I sat there in silence. Another light knock. I very quietly finished my business and pulled myself together. I stood somewhat close to the door to try to hear what was outside the door. Another knock. And then I heard a faint whisper say, "Hello?" I almost screamed, and I almost pissed my pants. Even though I already peed, I kept quiet, in fear maybe this wasn't a ghost, but a junkie or a creeper who managed to slip inside somehow. It knocked again, louder this time. The voice whispered, "I know you're in there." It sounded like a man's voice, but I couldn't tell at that moment. I began to jiggle the handle of the door, and that's when I flipped out. I'd scream, "Leave me alone!" The handle jiggled more violently, and then stopped abruptly. I stood there in fear. After about a minute of this, it slammed the door so hard I was surprised it fling open. My heart was racing and tears were streaming down my cheeks. Everything went silent for a good 20 seconds. Then there was another loud bang that shook the whole restaurant again. The door swung open so violently, and no one was there. I ran out there so fast, screaming and crying. The chairs were flung about, tables turned over, coffee cups shattered on the ground. I ran into the kitchen, grabbed my things, shut the ovens off. Hell, I didn't care if the baguettes were done or not, and ran out of the building into my car, freaked out. As soon as I had to close the bathroom door, I called my boss, sobbing and hyperventilating, and he told me to wait in my car. He arrived about 5 minutes after, his car flying into the parking lot. I got out, but told him I would not go back in there ever again. He went inside and came out about 10 minutes later looking very wary and upset. He told me he watched the security footage and couldn't believe what he saw. As soon as I closed the bathroom door, he saw a sort of dark cloud-like figure float in front of the door, right before the bang. The camera went to static for a few seconds to show the whole dining room a mess. Then the camera showed me running out of the bathroom. It's only been a few days since that happened, and I'm still shaken by it. My boss gave me the week off, paid time. I need to think this through. Is it actually worth it? Working in constant fear? We'll update if anything happens. Loud whistling in the middle of nowhere. So, I've never really been one to believe in paranormal experiences and such, but I don't really have any explanation for this. For the past couple weeks, me and my sister have been living in an old house that my father owned, since we were having a trip down here, and he offered us for us to stay and house sit for him. The house is located in a small village, where we know mostly everyone around here, so we don't suspect it could be anyone we know doing this. The house is gated off with a large iron fence and is 3 stories high, where me and my sister are staying on the 2nd floor. Now, everything was going well up until last week. Why I say this? Because starting last week, almost every night at a random hour, there would be a strange and very clear loud whistling coming from the back of the house, where me and my sister's rooms are. Even though there are no porches and not many people walking by our house, it was as if there was someone on the porch of the 2nd story where we were at, and whistling straight into me and my sister's window in a sort of weird melody I have not heard before. Now, at first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just some random old man walking along one of the paths nearby and whistling, but every time we looked, we saw absolutely no living soul out there. It also couldn't have been my sister, as she was right next to me every night because we shared the large guest room. Plus, even if someone was outside doing this, whistling, it would not be that clear. And oddly enough, the whistling was like abnormally perfect sounding. I have no idea where this annoying whistling is coming from, but it is driving me crazy, you know? Every time it starts, me and my sister just get a horrible feeling in our stomachs. It feels like something like dread or panic, and the tone of everything just shifts all of a sudden. But when it stops, everything just goes back to normal. This is really freaking me and my sister out, and we don't know what to do about it. Now, does anyone have any thoughts about what this loud whistling is and where it's coming from? We have no ideas, and we need help on this situation. Thanks, Reddit. Hopefully we'll hear from you guys very, very soon. Night Ride. So a little backstory first. I had decided to ride my bike to and from work during the summertime to save up a little more money to buy a nicer car. I was living in the California Central Valley, so it was hot during the day and warm at night, so not a big deal, right? I rode my bike for roughly 3 months, 5 to 6 days a week, back and forth, on the same path that led almost directly from my work to my house. One night, we were getting out of work, particularly late. I worked at a restaurant, and getting out at 1 a.m. in the morning on weekends wasn't a thing that was unheard of. My coworker, who usually rode with me on days that we worked together, had gotten a ride from his girlfriend, so I was alone at the time. Usually now, where I live, the summer nights are warm with a little breeze, and I actually love riding at night. There was no traffic outside, no families on bikes clogging both lanes, etc. I pretty much always got back within 20 minutes of leaving, max 30 minutes if I was going really slow. This night was different though, from the get-go. As soon as I walked out the door, it was bracingly cold for some reason, which is unheard of. So I decided to just ride fast and get home quick. It starts off normal, going over a bridge, over a freeway. When it takes a weird turn, the street lamps behind me start to make a loud electrical noise, so I look back, as if someone was approaching. The lights behind me start to flicker one by one. I am a little spooked at this point, but then I hear what sounds like another biker coming along the path behind me, and I feel relief that there's another person nearby me now. when the noise changes. It turns into a whistling, howling noise that rushes by me, actually flapping my shirt. Now I am borderline freaking out. I ride even faster. I keep hearing sounds like whisperings behind me. And multiple times it felt like something would just snag the back of my shirt or pant leg. Keep in mind, this bike path looks nearly identical from start to finish. Just a path, dead grass on both sides, and walls with houses. Very easy to lose track of where you are. So I keep riding, and riding, faster and faster, heart pounding in my chest. I am on a fixed gear track bike, so I can get it moving pretty quick when I really, really want to. So I am tearing down this path, and I never see a single sign of life the whole way down. No cars crossing at intersections, not a soul in sight. No people on the back porches smoking and chatting and having conversations, nothing like that. Just the only thing there was just the path lights flickering behind me, and the noises that sound almost human right behind me the whole friggin' time. I finally make it onto the main road, in which I have to turn to get onto my house. It's dead empty, zero cars around. Now, even in my semi-small town, this just hasn't ever happened. There's always cars stuck at a light, or the 7-Eleven on the corner, or just some dudes, talking, walking their dogs even at nighttime, or just people smoking at the corner of the street. But there's no one anywhere at this hour of the night. I don't even know why. So I keep sprinting, lights still flickering, noises still happening, and I get right to my front door, unlock it, take my bike straight through the door. I wasn't gonna fuck around and open the garage, etc., all that shit. I ran up the stairs, and then the most terrifying part happened. I looked at the clock, and it said 3:12 a.m. It had taken me almost 2 hours just to get home. I still have no idea how it took me so long, and have no resolution for the noises, or the flickering lights, or the complete absence of people. But I never took that bike path again.